Is Tuesday, September 13th, 2016. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Ms. Casabon? Here. Mr. Lauren? Here. Mr. Richardson? Here. Mr. Richard? He's here. Mr. Willie? Here. Mr. Davis? Here. Mr. Fitzmaurice? Here. Mr. Doherty? Mr. Drum? I am here. Mr. Randolph? Here. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, we would respectfully ask that you silence all phones and electronic devices. If you wish to appeal any recommendation of this board, appeals cards are to our right. If you wish to speak in front of the commission, we would ask you fill out a speaker's card. Each side will be provided 10 minutes to present with a 5-minute rebuttal. And lastly, at the end of the case, if you are leaving the chamber, we would ask that you go outside to have any further discussion, because if you get back into the lobby area, it echoes into the chamber. This time, we would ask you to stand for an invocation by Commissioner Randolph, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Drum.
Gracious Father, once again, we come to you with thanksgiving and praise in our hearts. For all the blessings you bestowed in our lives, we thank you for watching over, protecting us this day to this point in time. We thank you for this opportunity to represent this parish with these commissioners. Thank you for the citizens that we serve and represent. And Lord, we thank you for our government, and bless us this night in a mighty way. In your name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God save America.
In our package, we have the minutes from the April 9th meeting. August 9th meeting. Thank you. I'll entertain any motion. Motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve, second by Commissioner Lauren. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. This is a public hearing. Public's input is appreciated and welcomed. Entering parish right-of-way, servitudes and easements. It was asked earlier, and we will grant it, that under old business, there is a particular entering of the right-of-way which we're going to address at this time. It's on the last page. It's to enter the parish right-of-way, PC Resolution Number 16-020, Ward 3, District 2, an unopened portion of H Street. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Dennis Sharp. Request by developer for an extension of time. Staff.
Honorable Commissioners, the above referenced resolution was adopted February 10, 2016. The resolution states that the petitioner must submit all documentation within 6 months from the date of adoption. The petitioner has not furnished all documentation required within a 6-month period and is requesting an extension of time. See attached email dated August 11, 2016. Since the time has expired for the petitioner to furnish all documentation, the following action is required by the Planning Commission to allow the petitioner to proceed with the project. The Department of Engineering has no objection to the extension. The action required is to extend the adoption date to September 13, 2016, thereby extending the 6-month submittal of documentation to 3/13/17 and the completion date to 9/13/18.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here? Come to the podium, state your name and address.
Thank you. It's Mike Martin, 21404 Spring Clover Lane, Covington.
And Mr. Martin, the reason for your request?
Basically, it's just not, 6 months is just not enough time to get everything that I need to do through dealing with the Corps of Engineers, and that says enough right there. So I ask for that extension, please.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the petitioner? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, there's no problem with this. I move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve, second by Commissioner Casabon. Any other further comments? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Minor subdivisions. 2016-391-MSP, a combined 65.62 acres into parcels A, B, and C, Ward 3, District 3. Owner Harvey Ray Cord Jr., Surveyors Ellis Land Surveying LLC, Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable James Red Thompson. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason for the request or the waiver or hearing, is that parcels A and B do not technically meet the minimum 300-foot road frontage requirement for the A1 zoning district. The owner is proposing to collectively combine 5 parcels into 3 larger parcels. From a technical standpoint, proposed lots A and B do not meet the minimum 300-foot road frontage requirement on Slattery Road. Therefore, a waiver of the regulations would be required. However, due to the fact that both parcels are over 600 foot in width and 28 acres in size, the staff would have no objections to the approval and waiver of the regulations. Since a waiver of the regulations are required in order to approve this minor subdivision request relative to the lot width issue, a 2/3 majority vote of the membership of the commission, which is 8 members, is needed to approve pursuant to section 40-100, waiver regulations of subdivision regulatory ordinance 499.
Thank you. Mr. Shane?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Honorable Commission. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1810 in Covington, 70434. I am representing the owner and developer in connection with this request. We're in accord with staff comments. We recognize that a waiver is needed, but hopefully you will agree that due to the large size of these parcels, and if you look at the width of the parcels, I believe you would agree that the going from 5 to 3 certainly stays within the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish with minor subdivisions. If any of you have any questions, I would be glad to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the petitioner? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public. I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Casabon.
Yes, this is a family that owns a large parcel of land in Folsom, and he's giving this to his 2 sons on each side. So I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Casabon to approve, a second by Commissioner Willie.
With the waiver.
With waiver.
With waiver.
It will require 8 votes of the board to grant the waiver. Any further comments? If not, please vote. Motion carries with the waiver. 2016-392-MSP, an 8.451 acre parcel into parcels A and B, Ward 8, District 9. The owner, Miramon Huger LLC. The surveyor, J.V. Burks and Associates, Inc. The Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Gene Belisario. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reasons for a public hearing for this minor subdivision request is that proposed parcel B does not meet the minimum 1 acre lot size requirement. The owner is proposing to create 2 parcels from a 8.451 acre parent parcel. Proposed parcel B comprises of 0.80 acres and is therefore under the 1 acre minimum lot size requirement. Therefore, since it appears that the owner has plenty of land and wish to slightly increase the size of parcel B to comply with the parish's 1 acre code requirement, the staff does not support the minor subdivision request and urges the owner to reconsider a proposal and add the additional 0.2 acres to parcel B in order to comply with code. If the commission decides to grant the request as is, a waiver of the regulations are required in order to approve this minor subdivision request relative to the lot size issue, and a 2/3 majority vote of the full membership of the commission, 8 members needed to approve pursuant to section 40-100 waiver regulations of ordinance 499.
Thank you. Mr. Shane.
Mr. Mr. Chairman and Honorable Commission, again, Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, P.O. Box 1810 in Covington, and I represent the owners and petitioners Miramon Uge. This case does have an interesting twist, and we would ask you to grant this re-subdivision based on the following. Some of you may be familiar with the Crossgate Shopping Center in Slidell at the corner of Gauze and Military Road. I think for around 20 or 21 years, there has been a McDonald's at the corner, which is what you see to be parcel B. That McDonald's site was in fact owned by the owners of Crossgate subdivision, so that at the time that building was built and the McDonald's lease was entered into, there was common ownership, if you will, of the entire property and of all buildings. That property has recently sold to an entrepreneur in Baton Rouge, and I'm referring to the McDonald's site, parcel B. So the first step in this process was to go to the Board of Adjustment to let them take a look at the size and configuration of this parcel, but in particular, the variance that we sought and received on August 2 was to waive the landscape requirements, which would be 10 feet in width on each side of the common boundary, in light of the fact that the property is already developed and planned with planters, parking bumpers, driveway cuts into the main parking lot. Picture a fully developed property for 20 years. So it was the belief of the Board of Adjustment that it would probably be inappropriate, I guess, maybe, or perhaps asking too much for this property to be redeveloped in order to meet the code requirement. So we respectfully request that the McDonald's parcel, which may not be a legal lot until and unless you re-subdivide it, but it's had an identity as it relates to the site plan, as I say, for 20 plus years. And I think going to the Board of Adjustment first was not only necessary, but it was wise, because quite frankly, had they not, I guess, granted the variance and at least created the momentum, give us the opportunity to come to you for re-subdivision, we would not be here this evening. So in light of the foregoing, we understand that we need a waiver if we want to be less than 1 acre. But we request that you grant this re-subdivision, or I should say grant this minor subdivision request, creating 2 parcels of record, one of which will be less than 1 acre, but in light of the history of this site. If any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Looks like you got 150 foot. How many feet deep are we talking about increasing if you had to do it? 0.2 acres. I don't have my calculator with me, but it's roughly.
Well,
6 feet?
I would say that 2/10 of an acre would be roughly 8,000,
Right.
maybe 8,500 square
Yeah.
feet.
87.
And so a 150 by, what?
50.
50,
660.
50 feet, give or take.
50 feet.
But it would require a reconfiguration of everything that's there. But to answer your question, I think that's probably the consequence.
Right. Now, the reconfiguration is because of the existing concrete that's there now?
Yes, sir. The entire facility is in place. It was and I should have mentioned this. At the time it was done in conformity with code. It was not done as a freestanding lot of record. But my point is, it was permitted for the McDonald's building to be built. It met the parking requirements, the landscaping requirements, the driveway requirements, albeit of 20 years ago. Today, when we would like to make it a separate legal lot of record, it does not meet the 1 acre requirement. It did not meet the 10-foot landscape buffer requirement on each side of the common boundary line. That's why we went to the Board of Adjustment first, and that's why we asked for the waiver tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Richard?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff, I see when I'm looking at this survey, there's a line that's already there that almost looks as if it was the delineation between the existing McDonald's parking lot and this new parcel. I guess just to make certain, the parcel B right now that we're talking about is 0.8 of an acre, and that's the entire area, not just the little addition to what appears to be an old parking lot line.
You're correct. It is somewhat misleading in that you could think that parcel B would only be the northerly, smaller sector, but no, the 0.8 of an acre is the entirety of the corner.
Are they planning to, and I understand one is a legal lot boundary, but there's probably some sort of cooperative agreement. Are they going to reconfigure the parking lot or leave it as is?
They'll be able to leave it as is because all of the striping and driveways, et cetera, work. There's obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, there are common access servitudes that allow for free flow of traffic between the two parcels and common parking as well.
If this was a, something that wasn't developed, I'd be less inclined, but based on all the information presented, I move to approve with the waiver.
Motion by Commissioner Richard to approve with the waiver.
Second.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Lauren. Commissioner Lauren.
Jeff, could I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
The entire parcel that's there now, forget about the A and B, that's just one developed parking area. So if you move that line to increase it by 0.2 of an acre, you're just shifting the ownership of the parking lot from one person to the other, aren't you?
No, sir. It's my understanding that the configuration of Lot B is the manner in which the striping for the parking and the parking bumpers, et cetera, are set up. I don't know if Mr. Keller's been to the site recently. I only went once before I went to the BOA meeting. But that line is not arbitrary. It's my appreciation that the 0.8 of an acre is the footprint of the existing McDonald's, I guess we'll call it, area.
If I may, I'm very familiar with the site, and it's actually curbing. I mean,
curbing, that's
it's
what I
fully
was asking.
designed to be this way. I'm quite familiar with it.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Casabon?
Oh, I was just going to say that it just seems like that this was up to code as how we did it 20 years ago, and nothing's going to change, that it's something that needs to be approved.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Richard to approve with the waiver, second by Commissioner Lauren. Please vote. Motion carries. 2016-398-MSP, a 13.259 acre parcel into parcels A and B, Ward 5, District 6. Owner Brenda Thomas, the surveyor John G. Cummings and Associates, Inc. The Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Richard Tanner. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason for the public hearing for this minor subdivision is proposed parcel B1 does not meet the minimum 150-foot lot frontage requirement for the A2 zoning district. The owner of the property came before this commission back in April of this year with a 3-parcel minor subdivision request that was approved. However, subsequent to approval, the recordation of the survey, the owner was apprised that they had some ownership title issues with the 1.5 acre parcel depicted on the attached survey as not a part and owned by Johnny F. Crawford that was previously known as parcel B in the original minor subdivision request. Therefore, until the ownership issue of said parcel, which also included a small portion of the original approved parcel C, which is now shown on the new survey as proposed parcel B1, is resolved, the owner is seeking approval of an amended minor subdivision which removes said contested parcel and a fraction of former parcel C from the minor subdivision request. However, in doing so, as stated earlier, the lot frontage of revised parcel B1 had to be reduced to a 100-foot frontage on Watts Thomas Road, which is in violation of the A2 zoning requirement of a 150-foot lot width. Therefore, if the commission decides to approve this request, a waiver of the regulations are required relative to the lot width issue, and a 2/3 majority vote of full membership of the commission, 8 members, is required in order to approve pursuant to section 40-100 waiver of regulations of subdivision ordinance 499.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Larry Thomas. I live at 79212 Watt Thomas Road, Bush, 70431. And while it's on my mind, I need to correct something that's in this. It says 100 foot. It's actually 110 feet, .95.
That is correct. That was an error on our part.
As the gentleman just mentioned, when this was first it was did many years ago, and it adhered to the parish requirements then, but it don't now. And we want to, my wife and I are the ones going to buy the property. We want to put a double wide 28 by 72, I think it is, on it, and we've been waiting for 5 or 6 months, but I'm new at this, so if I can help you, if I can tell you anything, ask me so I know what to answer. You know?
Thank you, sir.
So we would desperately like to have that waiver. And
Understood.
that's about as plain as I know how to put it.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, sir, I move to approve with the waiver.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve with the waiver, second by Commissioner Richardson. Commissioner Richardson, would you care to make a comment?
I was going to, Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with this area, and I'm familiar with these people. This is family for them, and I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, sir.
So in the drawing, it shows that your current driveway is on somebody else's property as well?
Well, there's 2 driveways.
Okay.
One of them is on another piece of property, yes.
Okay, so that Johnny Earl Crawford, I mean, that's already been settled. They know who owns that piece of property, correct?
That remains to be decided.
Yeah, but Jimmy, that's why they had to do an amendment to their minor subdivision, because that particular property is contested right now legally.
Okay.
So they had to come back and revise it to take that piece out. They may come back at a later date and put it back in.
And put it back in, and then he would definitely be compliant, right?
Right.
Is that how it works? Okay,
Yes.
okay. My other question, you said something about putting a double wide on the
Yes, sir.
property?
Yes, sir, we have.
Okay, is there a mobile home overlay over this property?
There was a mobile home there before.
It doesn't matter now, you have to,
Yeah, that's a zoning issue, not a resub
Okay,
issue.
I was just
But he'll have
letting
to
know-
check with our zoning people to determine whether that can be done or not.
right, thank you, okay.
Any further questions? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve, second by Commissioner Richardson. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Petitions,
Very much.
you're welcome. Petitions, requests, none. Entering the Tammany trays, we have none. Revocations and closing review, we have none. Re-subdivision review, we have none. Dormant subdivision review, we have none. Tentative subdivision review. 2016-393-TP. Paraloo Trace, Ward 1, District 1. Developer owner, Paraloo Properties LLC. The engineer, Aero Engineering and Consulting, Inc. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Marty Dean. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a proposal for a subdivision has lots typically 90 by 135, total of 25 lots. Staff comments, the name Perilou should be corrected to be consistent with the name depicted on the Parish Road Inventory System and maps, which is Perilou spelled with an additional L. Comment number 2, the developer is depicted that federal jurisdictional wetlands exist on the property. Therefore, it is recommended a national wetlands permit be secured by the developer prior to the submission for preliminary subdivision review. Comment 3, subdivisions with only one ingress/egress shall be designed in a minimum of one 14-foot wide ingress travel lane on one side of the median and a minimum of two 10-foot travel lanes on the egress side. Therefore, the developer needs to add an additional 5 feet to the ingress in order to provide in order to provide the two travel lanes and a left and a right-hand turning lane. Comment 4, section 40-032 of ordinance number 499 only permits a maximum cul-de-sac length of 700 feet. And since the proposed street exceeds that requirement, the developer must either seek a waiver of the cul-de-sac standards from the Planning Commission. He is requesting a waiver of those standards per letter that we received today. With informational item 1, Parish requires that a land clearing permit be applied for and obtained through our department before receiving a work order in conjunction with the preliminary approval process. Staff recommends approval, subject to meeting all conditions. In addition, if the commission decides to grant tentative subdivision request, a waiver of the regulations are required relative to the cul-de-sac length issue pursuant to section 40-100 waiver of regulations, which requires a 2/3 majority vote of the commission, 8 members to approve. With that, the Department of Engineering has some comments.
Development engineering comments on the tentative subdivision plan. A, you need to show the distance from Perilou Road to the roadside ditch. B, this is the same developer, therefore resubmittal should be added to the subdivision name. C, the subdivision received preliminary approval on March 13, 2007, and a limited work order for clearing and grubbing on March 7, 2008. No work was accomplished and the developer requested release of the maintenance obligation. Department of Finance released the maintenance obligation on April 26, 2013. Paving and drainage comments. D, a drainage easement is needed along the entire length of the south side of the subdivision. E, add a note stating that the detention pond shall be maintained by the HOA. F, need to show a cross-section for the ditch to determine if there's adequate maintenance area and state whether the easement is for public or private use. G, adjust the property line in the typical section to match the 80-foot right-of-way width. H, adjust the property line in the typical section to match 60-foot right-of-way width. Sewer and water comments. Verify with Tammany Utilities that the utility site will be large enough to accommodate the proposed wastewater treatment plant. Watershed comments. J, need drainage easement at the rear of these lots to direct sheet flow runoff to the pond for retention prior to discharge of stormwater. K, call out what is designated by the area shaded with dots. If wetlands, then stipulate that a wetlands consultant shall perform the determination. L, need drainage easement of rear of lots to direct sheet flow runoff to the pond for retention prior to discharge of stormwater.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here?
Darrell Facel, Aero Engineering, P.O. Box 881, Madisonville, so 70447. I'm representing the owners that for this property, the Decatu family, and as you heard, this basic layout with few minor changes was approved back in 2007, and then they requested release of the maintenance obligation back in April of 26, 2013, so now they're bringing it back. And in regards to the staff comments, the first 4, we'll get the spelling correct. And the wetlands, they have the wetlands permit for the property because they started working on that back in 2000 and whatever, so they have it. And And then we'll revise that entrance detail. And then, of course, the main thing is the waiver that I'll come back to. And then, of course, all the informational items, we will take that into account when we present the preliminary plans. So.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Lauren.
In the write-up, it says that add a note that the detention ponds shall be maintained by the homeowners association. I looked at the protective covenants or restrictive covenants, and I know that lots of times there are more restrictive covenants than you put on the plat. But is mandatory membership in the homeowners association for anyone who purchases a property in this subdivision?
Yes, we've started putting that on all of them, and we'll put that on this.
If you put that on there, what we don't want to do is say somebody's responsible, but then
Right.
half the people in the subdivision choose not to join.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, it looks like at the top of the plat, it says tentative plat, so we're just granting tentative tonight, correct?
Right.
Okay, well, in the bottom right quadrant of the thing, you have preliminary plat of.
Yeah.
Once it's signed, does that mean it's?
No.
Okay, so that has to,
No.
that has to be
Yeah, that's
corrected.
one of the comments somewhere in here that's.
Okay,
yeah,
so you'll have to correct that, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Randolph.
Yes. Mr. Fussell, will you address item number 3 concerning the preliminary subdivision review? Have that been satisfied? Which has to do with the minimum width of the ingress and egress?
Right, we'll change the, there at the entrance, we have room to make it 5 feet wider so that it'll comply with the parish regulations, so that you have a right in, right out. Is there? So,
And with the cul-de-sac, will you address, not only address, but will you guys be able to satisfy that requirement as well?
well, that's the main thing that we need to, just like it says here, that we're asking for a waiver. The parish regulations say that the longest straight road that you can have without a side road is 700 feet. And we're between 1,180 feet and 1,300 feet, depending on how you look at it. And we're asking that waiver basically because we've got this long, skinny piece of property that these guys bought a long time ago. And so we've got 90 by 35-foot lots with a 60-foot right-of-way. And in order to develop this, we need the waiver. So.
Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Do you have any plans in place if you did not receive the waiver, how you would deal with that issue?
I sure don't.
No?
Commissioner Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This particular commission is going to be looking hard at these waivers and also on drainage. We've had some, as you might have seen, some recent issues and concerns brought up before us on drainage. Right now, I'm looking at your drainage, and you're saying that you're going to have to move everything to those detention ponds through the front and backyards?
Well, actually,
I know we're not there yet, but
Yeah,
I want
no.
to hear it because it's a real concern. And let me go on record right now, and it's not directed at you, but in general, what we heard last time or last week was that we have approved things in the past where drainage may be written a certain way, but the actual function of the drainage is not the same. And we're going to be taking a little harder look at that. We have to absolutely make certain that this property doesn't drain onto something else.
yeah, and I have no problem with that.
I understand, but you understand, we've
Oh, yeah.
seen some that
Yeah.
have said it wasn't, and in reality, in actuality, it does, and we're gonna have to address some of
Yeah.
that in the near future, but it is something that we're gonna really scrutinize.
Yeah, and we have, even though this is tentative and we're not talking about, we've performed the drainage calculations and the way the site is graded, everything works, it'll work fine. And as far as getting the water from the back to the front down that long road is not gonna be a problem. We have, it's sloped so that it'll do that, so.
And as far as the, obviously, we're not probably real excited about the length of this. This is not twice the length of our law, but it's close to it. And I don't know how the other commissioners feel about it. I understand that there's not a whole lot if you want to develop a subdivision on this piece of property that you can do. But then again, it's something that we're being asked to do a waiver on, so I'll turn it over to some of our other commissioners.
Yeah, and the only comment, I don't know when the 700 feet, how long that's been in effect, and I don't know if that was in effect when they started this process.
If I can answer.
10 years ago, whatever.
The ordinance was basically passed for basically two reasons. One is to, obviously not to have an elongated street and to have some type of access or connection where you promote traffic circulation in a subdivision development. The other is to not, again, have a long linear street where traffic can speed up and down the roadways. So what we might be able to do to mitigate this is maybe, and of course this would be with engineering to determine if this is a reasonable request, is to simply have them put some type of speed bump or some type of materials on the roadway to slow traffic somewhere toward the middle of this roadway.
Engineering would not be in favor of doing that on a public road.
Honorable Commissioners, Commissioner Davis?
Or you could take lot 19 and make a green space with a turnabout there, and that would satisfy your 700 feet. Just an idea, you could redesign this some kind of way to meet that need.
You like those traffic circles?
Do we have any motion whatsoever from the commission, either for or denial? Any type of a motion to address? Do you want to go dormant? Do you want a motion to postpone because there's a lot of questions asked?
I think there's still a lot of questions.
You want a motion to postpone?
Therefore, I'll make a motion to postpone until next month.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Lauren to postpone until next month. Second by Commissioner Richardson. Any further comment?
Yeah,
Again, no, this is for the commission, thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Lauren to postpone for 1 month, second by Commissioner Richardson. Please vote.
Excuse me.
Oh, Commissioner Richard,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I had a question on that. I know we have questions. I'm just not sure that, what's gonna be different in a month? I mean, what questions do we have that we haven't asked this man that he hasn't been able to answer?
Based on what I've heard, I would respectfully position that it probably needs to go back to staff and see if there's any reasonable alternatives, given the length of the road, given the issues that have been brought up relative to this. So it might be that they come back in a month and staff says that they have reviewed it with the developer and there are nothing more we can do. But I think given that the position of the commission, the questions asked, and the fact that I think there was great reluctancy to make a motion to approve warrants us to have staff review it with them, see if there's any further opportunities.
And Mr. Chair, I do apologize for asking the question. I tried to get it in before the motion was done because obviously we have a motion on the floor and we're limited to that right now and that preempts anything else. So
The motion to postpone would take a precedent. So we do have a motion to postpone for 1 month by Commissioner Lawrence, second by Commissioner Richardson. Please vote. Motion to postpone for 1 month carries.
Can I just ask a question? This is just clarification. The informational items that, after item 1, 2, 3, 4, I've never seen those four on a tentative plan. Because to me, that's saying, okay, when you do preliminary, you need to take these into account. Am I reading that the right way?
Yes, but again, that's what it is, informational. I don't think the commission postponed it because of informational items. They proposed it because of the waiver request.
Okay.
And it's either something that we can work out prior to the next meeting.
Yeah, is that, okay,
Yes.
that's fine.
No,
That's fine.
I would respectfully submit the commission understands the differences between a tentative
Yeah.
proposal and a preliminary.
Okay. All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks.
Preliminary subdivision review, 2016-383-PP, Southern Oaks, Ward 1, District 4. Developer owner, Yenin LLC. Engineer, Kyle and Associates LLC. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Michael Lorino. Staff?
Preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office, and an inspection of the site was made. It's recommended that the preliminary submittal be approved, subject to the following. A, subdivision plat. 1, all lots must show bearing and curve data along with distance. 2, a standard dedication statement is needed. Restrictive covenant number 13 is inadequate. 3, 911 addresses are needed on each lot. 4, show the 2 drainage servitudes at Scarlet Circle cul-de-sac as private drainage servitude. B, overall grading and drainage plan. Number 5, roadside ditch invert elevation is needed at each property corner. 6, the 2 drainage servitudes at Scarlet Circle and Scarlet Circle cul-de-sac must be labeled private drainage servitude. 7, revise Cypress Road to read Cypress Drive. Revise Myrtle Road to read Myrtle Drive. 8, replace this standard duty notes on sheet C2 with standard duty notes found on the preliminary plat. C, drainage impact study comments. 9, revise to state NRCS method. 10, attached are drainage exhibits and calculations made to determine the runoff flows. No attached exhibits. 11, page numbers are needed. 12, utilize the proper format by labeling tables and other techniques. 13, drainage maps are not included. 14, Exhibit 1 and the proposed drainage condition, Exhibit 2, can be found in the Appendix A. Appendix A is not provided in the drainage impact study. Appendix B is not found in the report. The calculations are attached but not properly labeled. Sewer and water. Plans and specifications for the construction of the project's water distribution lines and sewer collection lines have not yet been approved by the Department of Health and Hospitals as required. 16, H2O Systems, the utility provider, their approval is required. Department of Public Works, the 10-foot drainage easements shown at Scarlet Circle do not meet parish standards. Sheet C9, Section 1 needs to be revised to reflect the correct existing ground elevation on the right-hand side of the section. 19, show drainage easements on all drainage features, whether public or private. No maintenance obligation is required since this project fronts on Highway 22. Mandatory developmental fees will be required at final submittal in accordance with Ordinance 499 since no public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. The Department of Development Planning has the following comments.
Comment 1 is a condition of plan unit development. Green space and amenities are required within the development pursuant to parish code. Therefore, the developer should provide the Department of Development a recreational development plan prior to issuance of a work order in conjunction with the preliminary approval. Just to let you know, the representative of the owner of the subdivision did submit a proposed recreational development plan to me today through email. I did review it and responded to him. We are in partial accord with that proposal, but not all. I'm not sure if he can add any additional information regarding that plan and my comments. Paul?
Yes.
I'll go ahead and finish my comments, and he can respond. Comment number 2, a typical inset detail that depicts the radius for the cul-de-sac has not been provided on the plat. The minimum requirements for a cul-de-sac calls for a 60-foot minimum radius with a 26-foot minimum inside turning radius for the roadway. Staff recommends approval subject to staff comments.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone on behalf of Yannon LLC with regards to the preliminary for Southern Oaks. I've had an opportunity to work with Mr. Kyle at Kyle and Associates and some of his staff regarding the various items under A through E. We have addressed each and every one of these items other than 3, which I will point out to you and explain the status of those particular items. All of these items have been addressed and have been resubmitted to your staff, though admittedly Mr. Watson would not yet have had time to review that, but they have been done and are in his office when he does have an opportunity to review it. The only 3 items that are not completed under the subdivision plat, the 911 addresses have not been placed on each of the lots yet. We have requested those addresses from the parish. Once we receive those addresses, we will have them put on the plat. Under item D, the sewer and water, we have submitted the plans to the utility provider, which is H2O Systems. They have reviewed the plans and have provided several comments. We are in the process of addressing those and should be able to respond to them this week. As soon as we have their comments addressed, we'll be able to then forward the plans on to the Department of Health and Hospitals for their review and approval as well. So those 2 items do still remain outstanding, but we're in the process of resolving them. Those are the only 3 items that are not yet addressed with regards to the engineering comments. All other items are now addressed on the plans that have been submitted. In regards to the planning comments, first, with regards to the cul-de-sac, we have addressed that on the revised plans, and our cul-de-sac now meets the parish requirements, so we are not seeking any type of waiver for the cul-de-sac. The recreational development plan, this particular PUD has 3 amenities that need to be constructed. 1 is a park with benches. 2 is playground equipment within that park, and then 3 is a pool and cabana. In my exchange with Mr. Keller today, I believe that we're in accord with regards to the construction and implementation of the benches and the playground equipment, and we would propose to have those installed by the time we receive our 5th occupancy permit in the subdivision. So by the time the 5th house is done, we will have those amenities fully constructed. In regards to the pool and cabana, we had proposed to have those items completed and installed at the time that the first occupancy permit is issued for within phase 2 of the development. In other words, we would like to have the opportunity to complete phase 1 and to put the infrastructure in for phase 2. But before or at the time the first home in phase 2 is constructed, we will have the pool and cabana in place. We believe that's a reasonable amount of time given the amenity that we're talking about. This will be an expensive amenity, and we would like to have the opportunity to get through our first phase before it is constructed. Currently, our first phase calls for 56 lots. I know that was a question that Mr. Keller had of me this afternoon. So there would be 56 lots in place at the time that we would be pursuing phase 2, and that's when we would ask to be able to complete the pool and cabana. With those comments, we would respectfully request your approval, subject to your staff reviewing the revised plan and signing off in accordance with their comments set forth herein.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public, and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
Paul,
Yes.
initially, looking at this under preliminary, it looked like you had about 25 items, but you're saying now that just 3 items aren't addressed?
That is correct. All of those items are addressed, other than the three
Those
that I
three.
noted. That's
Okay,
correct.
but yet staff hasn't had time to review this yet, is that correct?
We did receive an email at 4 o'clock that had some comments that have been addressed, but we hadn't had a chance to review them.
Okay, I'm a little concerned with granting preliminary without understanding the drainage impact study. Under preliminary, and also underneath the 10-foot drainage easement along the cul-de-sacs. That's my concerns about this, that's all. So, if I made a motion to postpone for a month, does that mean that the staff can take care of it and read it all, and then next time we can go ahead and look and see and have 2 or 3 things left, or it's all done?
I would think so. If they've responded to these comments and addressed them, then by next month it should probably be a couple of comments or no comments.
Okay, I'll wait for somebody else though.
Commissioner Lauren?
Paul, I noticed that on the plat, number 14, under the restricted covenants, it's got St. Tammany Parish will be responsible for maintaining the areas, the pond areas. With 137 lots, there's going to be a lot of swales in this large subdivision. Who will be responsible for the swales?
Those swales will be within the street rights-of-way, which will be dedicated. So those will be part of the public infrastructure as well.
The parish will be responsible?
Correct, along with the roads and the other infrastructure being put in.
Well, could we include that on there so it'll be clear?
Yes, yes.
We could. The reason I ask that is, as Commissioner Richard mentioned earlier, with all the flooding we've had here lately and high water, there's a lot of subdivisions right now in the process of cleaning the swales out. And whose responsibility to pay for that is coming to the fore. And it would be a lot better if we've got that clearly stated, so when people buy the lot, they know what they're buying.
Understood, and no, we have no objection to adding that language.
Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, in all fairness to our staff and to give them time to evaluate everything, I'll make a motion to postpone for a month.
Motion by Commissioner Davis to postpone for 1 month. Second by Commissioner Drum. Any further comment?
I just have one. Restrictive covenants 13, Paul or staff, it says all street types of right-of-way. Just needs to replace that R, that T with an R.
Where are you?
Which item is that?
Restrictive covenants of the plat, item 13.
Yes.
It says types of way,
It says tights of right-of-way instead of, yeah, just a typo, but.
Got it,
while you're
yes,
ma- while you're
yes,
making-
yes.
yeah, while you're making changes.
Yes, I see it.
Mr. Chairman, staff,
Yes, I'm sorry, Ron.
regarding Mr. Marone's comments regarding the recreation development, we are in concurrence with his proposal. We were concerned about the cabana and the pool being, constructed in a timely manner, and because of it's the most important amenity to that development. So the first phase is fine. I just want to make sure that we have the proper language in the agreement that states that there can be no sub-phases to phase one. We don't want him to come back with a phase 1A and say, oh, this is not, but he did say 56 lots for phase one, so I'd rather just go ahead and have him change the agreement to indicate that after the 56th occupancy, then the pool and cabana have to be constructed.
So noted.
And we'll revise the plan accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. We have a motion by Commissioner Davis to postpone for 1 month, second by Commissioner Drum. Please vote. Motion carries. 2016-384-PP, Pontchartrain Medical Park, Ward 4, District 5. Developer owner, Vocal McWilliams Construction Company. Engineer, Kelly McHugh and Associates, Inc. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Reichert Taladano. The developer requests postponement until October 11th, 2016 meeting. Staff?
The developer has requested that this project be postponed to the October 11, 2016 meeting. See attached request. The Department of Engineering has no objection to this request.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here? Mr. Marone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We received the staff comments on this matter, have been in contact with Councilman Toledano, also with some of the residents through the councilman. We had a meeting a week or so ago, and we would like some additional time, one, to respond adequately to some of the concerns or questions raised by the staff, but also to continue working with the councilman and the residents on a few outstanding issues. And we believe that we can have all of that in a posture by your October meeting so that we can make the presentation to you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the postponement? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Lauren.
I'll make a motion to postpone until the October meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Lauren to postpone, second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Seeing no other comments, we have a motion by Commissioner Lauren to postpone for 1 month, second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Please vote. Motion carries. Final subdivision review, 2016-382-FP. The Estates of Watercross, Phase 1A, Ward 1, District 1. Developer owner, Allstate Financial Company. The engineer, Duplantis Design Group, P.C. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Marty Dean. Staff?
Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on August 31st, 2016. The inspection disclosed that the base course 2 inches of asphalt has been constructed. The developer is requesting that the final 2 inches be delayed until the majority of the phase has been built out or until the next phase is constructed. This has been allowed in several other subdivisions in the past with successful results. The roadside drainage and outfall ditches are functioning. The following minor uncompleted items existed at the time of final inspection and will be completed before the plats are signed. Need no outlet sign at the entrance. B, a negative bacteriological report relative to the construction of the project's water system has not been issued by DHH. C, letter of acceptance for the acceptance and responsibility for the perpetual maintenance and operation of the water and sewer system has not yet been issued by the utility provider as required. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, performance obligation will be required in the amount of 1,350 linear feet times 1/4 times $40 per linear foot for $13,500 for a period of 6 months, covering the cost of construction for the final 2 inches of asphalt. No warranty obligation should be established at this time. The warranty obligation will be established and commence upon the completion of the asphalt roadways. The staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request, subject to the developer complying with all comments, and no plats are to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. Mandatory developmental fees are required as follows. Road impact fee, $1,077 per lot times 26 lots for $28,002. Drainage impact fee, $1,114 per lot times 26 lots for $28,964. All fees are due before subdivision plats can be signed. The subdivision is within the urban growth boundary line.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Manella. Paul Marone again on behalf of Allstate Financial Company and the developer of this particular project. As you can see, almost all of the punch list items have been resolved before the meeting this evening. The few that were outstanding, the negative bacteriological report was obtained yesterday, and the letter of acceptance from the utility company, which is Utilities, Inc. of Louisiana, was obtained today. So those items are now resolved. The no outlet sign, Mr. Wayner assured me that that will be in by the end of the week. So other than that, it's a very clean staff report for final. We would respectfully request your approval this evening, and in particular with regards to the method we're using for the asphalt. Mr. Wayner has used this method in several other of his developments. It's worked quite well, and we would like to continue that moving forward on Watercross. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public, bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
Paul? Remind me again about the 2 inches of asphalt. You say the majority of the phase has been built out. Does that mean after the 14 of the 26 lots have been built out?
Well, the purpose of it is to allow for most of the home construction to be done, to preserve the road. And so, yes, toward the end of the 26 lots, then that additional lay will be put in place. Most likely that will correspond as we move into Phase 2, but even if we don't move into Phase 2 timely, once we have the majority of the homes on the 26 lots built out, then we would look to come in and put that final layer of asphalt.
Okay, because I see you also say or until the next phase is constructed. Does that mean at the end of the next phase construction?
Normally it is in conjunction with the construction of the second phase. That is historically how we have handled that.
Okay, I just was wondering who's like watching all this, like who says what's the majority is? You know, I mean, it's 14 of 26 lots.
Right.
So, I mean, you can't pinpoint that because that's not going to happen, right?
Correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
All
That's
right.
correct.
Commissioner Richard?
Along that same line, I like that concept. I mean, obviously, it makes a ton of sense. I'm looking for I guess from staff, the administrative component of it, because obviously, we're signing this, the plats will be signed, construction will commence. What kind of follow-up do we have? Because once it's completed, then you put your warranty obligation in, correct? So how does it work internally for us to know that this has been accomplished?
We'll do an inspection of it before we release, it's the
Item 4, I
the
believe.
performance obligation, so they'll have to finish the final layer of the roadway before we release the performance obligation and
And then we
establish
establish
the
a new
warranty.
one?
Yeah, right.
Okay, as long as, I just wanted to make sure administratively, because the concept sounds great. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, we'll have a road that's in better shape if we do it in this fashion, so.
Correct.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Richard to approve, second by Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Loren.
Yes, Paul?
Yes, sir.
I like what you're doing, particularly what preserving the roads a little bit. This one is, going back to the comments I had on the previous one, on this one, under restrictive covenants, it clearly says that the homeowners association will be responsible for maintaining the drainage servitudes. Does that include the swales?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
I don't see anything in the restrictive covenants that requires mandatory homeowners membership.
We will, as part of the filing of the final plat for this phase and every future phase, we have a very detailed set of restrictive covenants that will go along with that will supplement what you see here, that establishes the mandatory homeowners association membership, the ability to charge and collect dues, fees, and assessments and so forth for these improvements.
Well, the reason this is a little touchy with me right now, if you look at some of these lots, the going rate, according to the bids we're getting right now, is in the neighborhood of $4.50 a front foot for a contractor to come in and sweep the swales. And if people don't understand that when they buy in, they're buying into that, it's bad for the homeowners association to try to collect it later.
Right. I guess that is always a challenge. Certainly, these restrictive covenants are going to be recorded. They're going to be taking title to it. It becomes a matter of knowledge. The only thing I would tell you is that Mr. Weiner has a very good process in place by which he establishes the homeowners association, he manages it, and then he turns that over at the appropriate time to the residents. And my experience has been that the residents in these developments are made aware early of the obligations under the covenants and ultimately their duties going forward with regards to them. If you would prefer to see something on the face of the plat to provide further edification or education, we're happy to provide that.
Just as a, you know, not debate it, but what happens is a lot of people say, well, I didn't see that. You know, and that's what we're running into when you try to then get the work done and collect the money. And but for what it's worth.
It is a challenge, but from a legal standpoint, that's not a good argument.
We have a motion by Commissioner Richard to approve, second by Commissioner Davis. Please vote. Motion carries. Proposed amendments to Ordinance 499, we have none. Old business, SD 12-06-003P, Planche Estates, Ward 3, District 3, developer owner D.R. Horton Incorporated, the engineer Kelly McHugh and Associates, Inc., Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable James Red Thompson. Request by developer to change the subdivision name and street names. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will go ahead and read the letter that I included in the packet to the commission dated August 17, 2016. As this old business item, please be advised that the developer of the above caption of subdivision wishes to change the name of their subdivision to River Park Crossing and to rename several streets in the subdivision. See letter with associated documentation attached behind the letter. From the developer. The staff has no objections to the proposed subdivision name change as well as the street names because the 911 addressing offices has reviewed and has no problems with those changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Shane of Jones Fussell, P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. If I could take the liberty, I'd like to introduce a new associate in our law firm, Mr. Matthew Crane, who's with me this evening, and who will say just a few words concerning this change of name.
Thank you. Mr. Crane?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Matthew Crane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, and we represent the developer here, D.R. Horton, and request that you accept the name revisions. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Davis to approve, second by Commissioner Casabon. Any further comments? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries. First victory, very good. One for those guys. 2016-249-PP. Abita River Park, Ward 3, District 2. Developer owner, Abita River Park, LLC. The engineer, Kelly McHugh and Associates, Inc. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Dennis Sharp. Request by developer for a limited work order. Staff?
Honorable Commissioners, the above referenced subdivision received preliminary approval at the May 10, 2016 meeting, subject to the punch list items shown on the May 3, 2016 staff analysis report, copy attached. Paragraph 2 states that no work order will be issued until all punch list items have been resolved. However, under paving and drainage, item D states needs slope stability study for levee around pond, which will require soil borings to be taken by a soil boring vehicle. The attached letter dated August 11, 2016 from the developer has requested a limited work order and land clearing permit to clear right-of-ways and detention areas. Since the clearing will be required to gain access to the areas needing soil borings, there's no objection to issuing a limited work order for clearing only of the infrastructure. However, a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit is furnished. However, until the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit is furnished, no grubbing will be allowed. The engineering department therefore recommends that the developer's request be granted.
Thank you. Mr. Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing that I would add to Mr. Watson's letter is that we would also ask that item J from the original staff comments back in May also be added to this. Item J says the developer is required to install left turn lanes on Harrison Avenue at both of the subdivision entrances. The turn lanes shall conform to DOTD standards and requirements, including but not limited to required storage lengths. The cost of these turn lanes, including any right-of-way cost, is the sole responsibility of the developer and will be in addition to any mandatory impact fees that are assessed. We have no objection whatsoever to what that says. However, as the staff report reads now and your approval was granted, we would have to do that before we could get the work order. We can't do that until we get the work order. So it's some semantics there that we would also ask that be included in to clear that item up.
So on behalf of the petitioner, Mr. Morone, you want that to be amended to add item J into the petition?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
So noted. At this time, I would close it to the public and bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
A question for staff. They're also seeking a variance on the 30-foot set, from the 60-foot to 30-foot setback for the corners on corner lots. Is that correct?
They were at the time that they went to the meeting, but I believe we agreed that they would include the 60-foot setback for all corner lots.
I believe we resolved that in an exchange at the meeting on that other approval.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
As amended?
As amended, yes.
Second, we have a motion by Commissioner Davis to approve as amended, second by Commissioner Lauren. Seeing no further comments, please vote. Motion carries. Enter Parish right-of-way, PC Resolution Number 15 through 118, Ward 4, District 5, a portion of Dove Park Road. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Reichard Taladano. Request by developer for an extension of time. Staff?
Honorable Commissioners, the above referenced resolution was adopted on November 10, 2015. The resolution states that the petitioner must submit all documentation within 6 months from the date of adoption. The petitioner has not furnished all documentation required within the 6-month period and is therefore requesting an extension of time. See attached letter dated August 16, 2016. Since the time has expired for the petitioner to furnish all documentation, the following action is required by the Planning Commission to allow the petitioner to proceed with the project. An extension of the adoption date to September 13, 2016, thereby extending the 6-month submittal of documentation to 3/13/17 and the completion date to 9/13/18.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here? Please state your name and address for the record.
David Ersey with Clico Power. I have with me Terry Dagrapont with Clico Power, 1530 Dove Park Road. And yes, we are requesting an extension of time for this project, as engineering has stated. Terry Dagrapont is our manager for this project and has all the details. We experienced some delays in some paperwork as well as in our bidding process, which caused us some setbacks, but the project is moving forward, and we request that you approve this time extension. Thank you.
Thank you. Care to make a comment?
Yeah, well, we've gotten, I think we're on the right road with all the paperwork, and I think it's progressing smoothly now. So I think in a short period of time, we'll be able to have everything together to proceed.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to approve, second by Commissioner Randolph. Any further comments? Please vote. Motion carries. Any new business to come before the commission? Not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.